All right, well, welcome everyone to the serve tennis training for WTN Tournaments. My name's Adelaide Wood and I am the National Manager of Youth Competition for USTA, and I'm joined here with my colleague from Club Spark, Peter Hall, who is the Customer Success Manager for serve tennis. So I appreciate you all taking the time tonight out of your busy schedules to join us, and hopefully you find this training informative. Feel free to put any questions in the chat. We will do our best to respond to them as we go. And if we don't get around to that, we will make sure to tackle them at the end or answer some of them live. But really want this to be as interactive as possible and make sure that we cover all of your questions and get them answered. So tonight we're going to go through, I'm going to go through a little bit around what the WTN is and what that tool consists of, some of the exciting things that you can look forward to, and then Peter is going to go through a demo of how it all works in serve tennis. So with that said, the biggest and greatest part of the WTN tool is that it's free. It is free for all abilities, ages, and genders. So that is a huge selling point for us with this new rating. It's being adopted by the USTA and in over 140 member nations. So it just goes to show that this really is a global rating, and it's not just us here in the US that are using it. Players get one ITF World Tennis number for singles and one for doubles. We are all on a scale from 40 to 1, 40 being a complete beginner and 1 being closer to a professional tennis player. But like I said, everyone has a singles and doubles separate. So how does the WTN work? Like I said, we're all on a scale from 40 to 1, 40 being the lowest, 1 being the highest. It really is an industry-leading algorithm that analyzes player performance data, and we have millions and millions of matches that are incorporated into this rating. There's some really cool features. I know we're not going to go through it all tonight. We definitely have other resources, and you can check it out our website to see some of the functions that this tool is able to provide and the data that it's able to provide. The algorithm calculates weekly, and the more matches that are played, the more accurate your rating is going to be, or a player's rating is going to be. We have what's called the game zone, which really identifies a range of potential opponents whose WTNs are close on that scale. So really trying to aim for level-based play here with a game zone. And on that image on the left-hand side there, you can see what's called a widget, and that's showing a player's world tennis number. That's their singles rating. And then if they were to click on doubles, they would have a separate doubles widget showing that. But that top little dark blue bit that you can see there is a player's game zone. So showing a range of a few different points really to embrace the level-based play. And then we really have access to suitable opponents, statistics to track and improve, an ability to favorite list of players. So there's a ton of functionality in there that players can use to see sort of head-to-head. They can have a list of favorites. There's a bunch of different tools and data that's available for free. All right, so how is the World Tennis number being integrated into our junior competitive pathway at USTA? So there's a lot of different components here to this. First of all, Junior Team Tennis, which is our legacy program for team tennis. The WTN has already replaced the junior NTRP, and sections already using this for their rating bands. So really excited that the World Tennis number is already integrated into this space, and sections and players are having success with using it. For junior circuits, so this is our first individual competition product that's unranked, but providers can now use the World Tennis number for selection and grouping when it comes to green and yellow ball play. So fantastic new tool for them to be able to use in that space. When it comes to junior tournaments, the World Tennis number can be used by sections and TDs for selection, seeding, and grouping. All that functionality is already available and being used with success. And then last but not least, the WTN tournaments. Obviously a very flexible tool in serve tennis for providers to band groups of players. So they can set different bands for players to then register for that event. So for example, you could have a band of 35 and a half to 33 and a half, and then separate ages. So really trying to embrace level-based play and have flexibility for providers on that end. So as you can see, the World Tennis number is already very integrated into our system, and I think you're going to see it even more as we move forward. All right, well, that's all I had around the World Tennis number as sort of an overview. I am now going to hand it over to Peter, unless, Peter, there's any questions you want me to address before we move into the demo.
No, I think that's great. Well, we can move into the demo, but as Adelaide was saying, it's a very exciting time and a very exciting stage with this coming out as well. So I'm going to jump straight into the demo right here. So what we're going to kind of, hopefully we can see my screen, Adelaide. Is my screen showing okay?
Yep, perfect.
Perfect. All right, so in this demo, obviously, we're going to walk through kind of creating the sanction form for a WTN tournament. It's a little different for those of you who have created a sanction form for a ranked tournament or something like that in the past. And I can presume everyone on this call is familiar with Serve Tennis in terms of creating a Serve Tennis account, setting up the payment settings in the tournaments module. If you're not, reach out to us, one of us after this call, and we can kind of walk you through those steps. But for the purpose of this, we're going to kind of presume you guys are kind of set up and ready to go. So we come into the tournament module, and obviously once you come into there, we have a list of all the upcoming tournaments at our account. I'm going to come on to the right-hand side here and click Add Tournament. Now, for those of you who have already submitted a sanction form, you've probably gone into this junior, adult, or wheelchair pathway. Now, obviously, it's very clear at the top, we've got this WTN play event up here. So we're going to select that as our kind of tournament level. And obviously, once you've selected that, it's going to walk us through the steps required to create this WTN tournament. So just to be aware, I'm using a stage environment. It is a little slower sometimes than in production. But once you start creating a sanction form, kind of the first screen you will see is very similar to a regular sanction tournament. Now, what you will notice, though, is a tournament does always begin with WTN tournament. So just to be aware of that, when you kind of name it, it will say WTN tournament, whatever you call it. So I might just call it webinar example. Okay. Then we're going to put the location of the tournament. And again, it's kind of pulling from the database. And stage is a little slower. Perfect. We're going to have our start date and our end date of the tournament itself. Okay. And we're going to kind of put in the registration open and close date as well. You can choose to have the registration automatically open once you publish it. And what's kind of nice with this WTN tournament, as opposed to, say, sanction events, you do have flexibility on the time. Okay, so you can adjust this to whatever kind of time you want, either AM, PM, etc. So moving on down, we do have to add a tournament director, and they do still have to be an approved tournament director. If you do have any questions on how to become approved, reach out to Adelaide or myself or anyone on the team. We can help out with that. You can choose to add a referee now if you want, or you can leave this blank. And we do have to still select which account the money will go into when you kind of take the entrance fees. But as you can see, that screen is very similar to a normal sanctioned tournament. As you can see, just hit an error. It's probably something to do with our stage environment. Give me 1 second. Perfect. All right, so now we've kind of created the tournament shell. We can start creating the events within the tournament. And this is where it starts to get a little different. So you can either click Add Events down the bottom or Add Events over here on the right-hand side. And you're going to see these steps, for those of you who have submitted a form before already, are now a little bit different. So first, we can kind of select, okay, the gender of the event itself. Okay, so I could select multiple, or I can just do one at a time. In this case, I'll do a male event. We're going to say the ball color. And we can say is it singles and or doubles. Okay. We're then going to say what rating, what WTN kind of band we want the players to be in this event. Okay, so you obviously, as Adelaide was saying earlier on, 40 is your beginner player, 1 is your pro player. You can narrow this down if you want to create like more of a level-based play experience. You could also cast this as a wide net, and then once you get into tournament desk, you can split the draws and flight the draws based on WTN. So, you know, you guys know who's around in your local area. You can either cast a wide net and then kind of narrow it down in tournament desk itself, or you could kind of narrow this down to begin with. You know, obviously you guys will have experience with the level of players in your area who might be coming to this tournament. But if you do have any questions and want kind of some help, suggestions, advice, reach out to us and we're more than happy to help. So in this case, we're going to say this male event, singles, is for players between the 30 and the 25 WTM. Now I can choose if I want to add age restrictions. Okay. If you leave it off, it defaults from like 7 to 99. Once I turn this on, it gives me the option to kind of add the minimum age and the maximum age. And this is why there's no kind of adult or junior kind of pathway when creating a sanction form, because you kind of create that right here. So I might say the maximum age for this event, I might set it to say 40, and I might set the minimum age to, let's say 16. So you can have a crossover between adults and juniors if you want to. Once you're happy with all of these settings, we would just hit add divisions, and it would drop whatever you created into these buckets down here. And you can see very clearly what you've created. So I've created a male singles for WTN 30 to 25, ages 16 to 40. Once we're happy here, we would hit continue. And we can kind of put some default details of the event itself. So we can say the start date and end time, as long as it falls within the overall tournament kind of window. What surface, location, and some information around that. We can add our price. And as Adelaide was saying, this is the great thing with these tools. It's all free. There's no charge to this. The only kind of fee you might be hit with, well, you will be hit with, is a processing fee from the entrance fee. So in this case, you can see here, it states very clear, the entry fees are subject to a 3.5 plus 50 cents transaction from the entrance fee. Okay, there's no head taxes involved in this. So it's just the 3.5, 50 cents deducted from the entrance fee. And if you do any questions on how to calculate, certain rates that you want to get, again, we have some tools we can help you with that. Just some simple charts put together where you can kind of plug in what you want to net or gross, and the system will tell you the outcomes. Now, what's really key with the WTN tournament events is this enforce registration restrictions toggle. Now, it'll always be toggled to off, okay? Now, when this is off, whatever parameters we put up here, so gender, WTN, and age, is solely a guide, okay? So if I say with this off, in theory, a female player who's a WTN of 1 that's 65 years old could register for this tournament, okay? If you really want to lock it down, you can enforce the restrictions, and that way when the player goes to register, the system will check to make sure you meet all of these criteria, okay? And I'll show you how that looks in the registration flow in a second. So for this event, I am going to enforce it, okay? And I'm going to continue. And then you're going to say, what draw type you're looking to run, the score format, draw size, and also your selection criteria. And again, you aren't fully locked into these. You can adjust these when you create the draw and tournament desk, because obviously, you might not have the numbers you're hoping for, so you might have to tweak this slightly. But once you've hit save, we submit, and that event is now kind of added to the sanction form. And we can go ahead and add additional events. Okay, so maybe in this tournament, you're wanting to run, say, the male singles we just created. You can go ahead and run another level of event within this tournament if you want. To do that, you would simply hit add events and go through those same steps again, okay? So this time, for example, I'm going to add a female event. I'm going to say it's yellow ball. I'm going to say singles and doubles. I'll say for this time, I'm looking for players between a 38 and a, let's say, 35 WTN. So you can see here, you can almost stack some kind of level events if you wanted to, as well as having the option to cast that wide net we talked about. Again, I'm going to add age restrictions. This time I'm going to just say 15 to 60. So ultimate flexibility here. Add divisions, drops into these buckets. Okay, we're going to continue. Again, I'm happy with my event start date and end time. I'm happy with all of this information. I'm going to put my price in here. This time I'm not going to enforce the restrictions. So this way now, these details up here are solely a guide, okay? And you'll see that in a second. So we're going to continue. Again, the draw type, and because in this time I've created a singles and a doubles event, it gives me the option to control what I want to do for the singles and what I want to do for the doubles. I'll just leave these as is for now. Selection criteria again, and you can save and submit. So you can see it's very, very easy to kind of start building out these events into the sanction form. So once that's all completed, and once they're happy with this, we do have a few more steps to go. And you can see here at the top, we have this checklist with this kind of 2. So it's telling us we have these 2 items still to do. So I'm going to click into that. And you can see here, we've added events, check. We've got approved tournament director, check. Now the system's now given the option to add web info and confirm rules and pricing. So I can either click these buttons over here to go to that space, or I can use the options up at the top right here. So I'm going to add some web info first. And now I would strongly say this is a really, really powerful tool. So especially when running, a WTN tournament or any tournament like that, utilize this space. Okay, it's very easy. All you have to do is copy and paste the information you want to relay or type it in. Very, very straightforward. And you can also, when you start typing in, okay, you can highlight the text and hyperlink out as well. So maybe you want to link to, say, a hotel registration or anything like that. Very, very easy. And obviously, the more information you put in here, hopefully the less questions you guys as tournament directors will get. You can see here, if I scroll down, there's a lot of options to kind of add in here. And you can also upload a tournament logo, a tournament cover photo. So you can really start to brand it. So you kind of your clubs or your organization's branding if you want. You can upload a waiver as well right here. Once we're happy with that, you would just save an update. And now if I go back to the checklist, once it loads up, you can see we've got the green check mark here. So now the only thing left to do now is confirm rules and pricing. If I confirm now, okay, I can just leave it as is, okay, but I do want to hit the check rules button first just to show you what this does. This basically just gives you the option to allow people to register in multiple events. And if you're allowing them to register in multiple events, you can create discounts for them. So if I say that discount across all events, you can see the first event is the full price. If I add a row, the second event is X price. Okay, so just some flexibility in here. It may or may not apply to you, but if it does, this is where you would go to do it. But in order to proceed through, you do at least have to hit these confirm now and just tell our system, I'm confirming it's the settings as they are. Once everything's done, we're fully checked. You can see here, this kind of taskbar is now complete. I can now submit to the section for approval. And again, there's no head taxes associated to this. I can submit, and obviously now I'll be notified of approval as and when it's approved. So in this example, I've set it up for auto approval, so I can kind of take you right into the tournament now and show you what the players would see on the public side of things. So I'm going to hit view tournament. Okay, now it's key to note as well is players can find this tournament through the national tournament search, or with the Serve Tennis websites you can build out, you could link out to the website to promote the tournament that way. If you're not sure how to create the website within Serve Tennis, just reach out to us. We can kind of jump on a call with you and kind of walk you through those steps as well. But you can see here, here's the tournament entry form we created. And you can see here, because it is a World Tennis tournament, World Tennis number tournament, we do have the logo over here in the right-hand side. Now going down as a player, I could see, the criteria of each event. Okay, and obviously you see the price as well. So in this case, I'm going to select multiple events. Okay, I'm going to hit go to checkout. Now on the next screen is where you would start to kind of add what players are on your account to what event. Okay, obviously you might not all have multiple players on your account, but if you do, obviously it would give you the option to choose. Now here's where the enforced restrictions things came in. Okay, because you can see for the male event, we did enforce the registration restrictions. So you can see it's telling me for all of these players, no one can play in this because they don't meet the criteria for various reasons. So you can see here, I do not meet the WTN rating to play in this event, can't play. Okay, this person on my account, this child test, they do not meet the age and they do not meet the WTN rating. Same with this player and this player, they do not have yellow ball. So you can see here, there's very clear messaging to the players that if you have enforced the restrictions, it tells them very clearly why they cannot. Now, if you or they ever believe this is incorrect, they can reach out to customer care. There's this help button down here. They can submit a ticket and customer care can look into it. But the system is very, like I say, very clear, and it's telling you the reason why someone could not register. Now, if I keep going down for these female events where we did not validate the restrictions, all my players can enter. Okay, so even though I'm a male player, I can register for this event because I did not enforce the restrictions. So that's where it's very clear to see the differences there, whether you enforce, whether you don't enforce the restrictions. So just wanted to point that out in case that any questions did come up if you choose to go the enforcing way. So moving on quickly, I'm going to dive into another tournament now. So what I'm going to presume now is that we've done our sanction form. We've had players go ahead and register. Now it's time for selection. So I wanted to quickly walk you through the selection process. It's a very, very straightforward way to go. So I'm going to pull into another tournament, which I've prepared earlier on, which hopefully has registrations closed. If I set this up correctly, you can see here it has. And I'm going to go into the players tab. Now you can see here, obviously, once players start to register, okay, from the players tab, and again, once it loads up, stage is a little slow. Perfect. You're going to see a list of all the players that have registered into this event. And if I drill down at specific events, I see all the players listed for that specific event. Okay. Now this is staged. So basically the data is obviously, all fake data. Okay. But once you come into an event, you would see the WTN of the player. Now, if it's a singles event, it would default to the singles WTN. If it's a doubles event, it would default to the doubles WTN once this one loads up. And you can, using the more columns option over here on the right-hand side, choose to show singles and doubles or more data if you so wish. Now, one thing to note as well, if you're not, too familiar with WTN, is obviously there is various levels of confidence factor. So you can see right here, we've got this dark blue check mark. This is basically a high degree of confidence. So what's that saying is we have, really high confidence in this number. Okay, you can see if I go up, we've got a play of a light blue. This is a medium degree confidence. So you can say here, we're not as confident in that number. Now, going further down, you might also see a gray check mark. Gray check mark is basically a low degree of confidence. And these three confidence factors are really important when it comes into seeding and the selection process. And we'll touch on that in a second. So one thing's really important to do before you guys go ahead and do the selections, okay? Because when a player registers for the tournament, it will pull in their WTN at time of registration, okay? Obviously, that might change between the time they register and the time you go to do selections. So you need to make sure you hit this refresh WTN button over here on the right-hand side. What that does, basically just refreshes the data, okay? So if there was any changes in the player's WTN, it will be reflected now. This is stage data, so there's going to be no changes. Well, there shouldn't be, okay? But it's just something that's really important to do. And what you'll also note as well, once you've done that, you see a timestamp of when it was pulled. So this is potentially really important, but if you had some players that ever come up to you and say, hey, my WTN has changed, maybe you kind of did your selection, before the kind of update, and then maybe the player's WTN changed. At least it's where you could go some, hey, look, this is when we pulled the numbers. This is why, if there ever was any difference, this is why. Okay, so just something that's really key to note. Now, run into selections. So I'm going to click on player selections now, and I'm going to do my singles event first. So I'm going to hit selections over here. And now once this loads up, I need to make sure I'm pulling the WTN data. We'll give it a second. Okay, so I'm going to just make sure to sort by method in its own time. Again, production will be a lot quicker than this. Make sure the sort by method is WTN. We hit apply, and now we're going to see all the WTN of the players right here. And it's also telling me when it was last updated. Fantastic. And depending on you're doing top down, bottom up, you can kind of click this arrow here to kind of resort the players as you need to. Okay, and now in terms of moving the players over to the main draw, there's a couple of ways of doing this. We can either select one player at a time and drag them across. We can select the box up here to select multiple or everyone, and then drag everyone across as a group. Or another little trick, these three dots up here, you click on that, you add all to unassigned, it moves everyone in the order listed over to the left, putting them correctly in the main draw, and you'll turn it list if applicable. So very, very straightforward to do that. We would then go ahead and save. And once we've saved, we can go ahead and finalize. And we do have to finalize before we can get into Tournament Desk. Finalize basically just locks it down. So you can't make any changes to this until you get into Tournament Desk. So I'm going to go ahead and finalize this one, and then we can go and do the doubles in its own time. Perfect. Now I'm going to toggle back up here to all events so I can kind of see that grid overview. And now I'm going to go into my doubles. And now obviously with doubles, so for those of you who are familiar with running tournaments in Surf Tennis, when you do a doubles event, players can register as a partner. So I could go ahead and register and then put Adelaide's USTA ID information in. She would get an email saying, hey, Peter wants to play doubles. Adelaide could then follow the links, follow the pathway, and register for the event and pair us up. If a player doesn't know who they're going to play with, they can set themselves as looking for a partner. So if I was registering first and didn't know who I wanted to play with, I could say, set myself as looking. And then maybe Adelaide comes along. She's also looking for a partner. She can pick me from a list and say, yep, Pete, hey, I want to play with you. If that happens, I would get an email saying, Adelaide wants to play doubles with you. I can either confirm and we're paired, or I can say no and we're not paired. So it's a very easy way for the players to pair themselves up during the registration flow. Now, what you will find, okay, obviously sometimes, players might not find a partner, which is the case in this example tournament right here. If that's the case, they would sit under unpaired. Okay, so now what you could then do as a tournament director, you could come along and hit add doubles team and quite simply just pair the players up. Okay, you'd probably do more logic what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to go for speed purposes and just click everyone together. Okay, and once that's done, we would save the teams. Okay, and the players would move from unpaired and they'd move over into the paired section right here. So once this loads up, we'll give it a second. And I'm going to come over to the paired section right here. And again, obviously for the doubles, it utilizes a doubles WTN. If I look at the pairings right here, if I click on this question mark, it tells me the doubles WTN of both players. Okay. And now it's really important to note here, if I kind of resort these pairings right here, okay, is obviously for doubles, the confidence factor obviously comes in again, just like singles, but it factors in the confidence factor of both players. So let's say I was playing for Adelaide, and let's say I've got a WTN of 1, but I have a low degree of confidence. Adelaide's got a WTN of 10, but a high degree of confidence. It would lump us as a pair as not high degree and as a low degree of confidence, because it kind of takes the lowest confidence level effectively. So that might be a question where you ever get from a player is like, hey, why is a team we're seated behind this team? Well, maybe one of the players is a medium or a low degree of confidence. And you can see right here, as an example, if I kind of resort these pairings right here, so I'm going to have my better players at the top. Okay, if I scroll down, okay, even though, you know, these pairs here, their kind of combined doubles WTN is better than these players, because one or maybe both of these players have a medium degree of confidence, they're pushed down that list. So that's where that confidence factor is really key. Now, you as a tournament director obviously could manually adjust this and override it a little bit, but the system will always factor in the confidence level. So just something that's really important to note. Again, though, I can do my selections just like previously, drag everyone across, it will fill up the main drawer and the alternates if needed. I would then save. I would then finalize once it loads up. Give this wheel a second. We can go ahead and finalize. And then now all my events have been finalized, I can go ahead and charge the plays button. 1 second. If I toggle back to do all events. We'll give this a second just to catch up. There we go, fantastic. So you can see here now all my events are finalized. This charge players is clickable, so I can now click that and all the players that are in the main draw will now be charged, okay? And before you can go to the tournament desk, I always tell people a little trick, hit this publish selection button, because that just updates the front end website. So that way, once you've hit that, the players would see who's in the main draw and who's on the alternates if applicable. Obviously, players do get emails about that, but it's always good practice to keep that website up to date and current as well. From here, we could go ahead and launch Tournament Desk. And then here we can, you know, go ahead and do our seeding, draw creation, and things like that. Now, we're not going to get into that really too much tonight because we wanted just to kind of show you the sanction form creation and selections within the WTN tournament event. But if you do have any questions on how to kind of use Tournament Desk for draws, seeding, etc., you can reach out to us and we can kind of point you either on a one-on-one call, or we can point you to some other webinars we're running where we kind of go through it in detail as well. So yeah, that's kind of what we wanted to cover today on the demo. Adelaide, I don't know if you have any questions coming in or if you have any other things you think we should cover tonight.
No, that was great, Peter. I think we've addressed everything in the chat, but like Peter said, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to do a one-on-one call with you, and really appreciate you being on tonight, and hopefully you have success with this new tool and in serve tennis.